And, I wish, honestly, I never got involved with a lot of this medication. But you know what they do? You go into the doctor's office, and all they care about is making you feel better right then and there. They don't talk to you, seriously, about what the long time effects are. Just like when I was on those steroids, the doctor sat there.
Are you open to an option to handle that?
Well, yeah, I would like it because, how can I
can tell you what my experience is.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's two options that I can suggest, okay? In my case, I can talk to the body consciousness in a hypnosis state, and your body will tell you what is causing your illness and the health healing information that you need to take care of so your body can come back into wholeness. The other option is when my fellow and I do free healings on Thursday afternoons at 3 o'clock in Milton at Camp Edgewood, and we like to be called the night before RSVP, so we know you're coming. He has healed cancer in a child. He's a very good pranic healer, okay? And I bring in the emotional and the past life information. Like everything's coming up right now in people's lives because it's time to heal it. So the past life information can sometimes be quite helpful. Now, we had a lady come to us at one point who had been given a fatal diagnosis of an illness. In fact, her story is in my book, Paradigm Busters, Reveal the Real You. And she came to us, and we worked with her. And the first time she went back to her doctor for a checkup, he says, things haven't changed. And she was, of course, very happy. And a year later, she went back for her yearly checkup, and he said, I must have misdiagnosed you. And we literally danced last summer at her 25th wedding anniversary. She didn't die. She's very healthy at this point. So there is a way through spiritual healing, through putting love into your body rather than drugs, that you can counteract it, and it could walk away. Eventually, it doesn't happen overnight. I had a young woman show up at my doorstep who had a terrible case of thyroid. And in fact, her grandfather brought her because she was in high school, and he was raising her. He says, do you still do counseling? And I said, sure. And I knew them through a spiritual group. We're all in Edgar Casey together, organization. So he said, can you help her? And so I was working with her, and I connected with her body consciousness. She was open to that because she's into metaphysics. And in those days, I did it on a tape recorder. Now I use an MP3 recorder. But I talked to her body consciousness, and I told her, it made you sick to take your focus off your mother, and her rage about her mother was off the charts because she had been abandoned as a child as the parents went off to go drinking and drugging. And so her rage was just atrocious. And the body told her, we made you sick to take your focus off that because you just your system couldn't handle that rage anymore. So when she heard the loving information, in fact, it was so loving, I had tears coming down my face, what her body said, of how much your body loves you and how much it wants to help you be healthy. And I wish I'd had a copy of it. And about a couple months later, she was an ongoing client, and she came back and she says, by the way, I don't need my medication anymore. So I thought that was really good. Then a couple months later, she was talking about, I'm going to go meet my mom, and we're going to have lunch, and we're going to shop. And I says, what's going on? She says, my mom and I have become great friends, and we're all working out, and so her illnesses went away. And it wasn't because of medications. It was because what she needed to emotionally forgive her mother, deal with the issues that happened, see the reality of the situation of how and what she was learning from it, and how she could move beyond living in the past over and over, recreating it. She could move into the now and be free of that rage. So it's possible to heal these things without medications. And he has had experience in actually healing cancer.
I also found too, which, the doctors, I ride a big motorcycle, and that's what there was down that I still ride. And I go, you know what? I stay focused on certain things. Like I do my talk show, I ride my motorcycle. And that's why I feel I'm still around. It's because and a lot of people out there, the first thing, if they get an illness, the first thing in their mind is they feel sorry for themselves. And that's all. They can't get out of that feeling sorry for themselves. And then I hate to say it, they die. I watched my grandfather that way. I watched two other loved ones of my family. The first thing when pardon me?
The answer to feeling sorry for yourself, I've been there. My mother was the great pour me another drink person. And so I learned pour me very, very well. And when I first got to 12 steps, they had me make a gratitude list. And I said, well, what's that? Because that's how far from being grateful I had ever, I just had no clue about that. And so I started making a gratitude list. And the more you're grateful, you move out of the pour me and you start seeing all the gifts that come to you, all the wonderful experiences that happened in your life, and you can start appreciating all the good things rather than focusing on what was in the past. You're seeing what's going on right now. It might be a beautiful sunset, or it might be Mount Rainier looks gorgeous today, or, the ocean is just beautiful today, whatever. What are you grateful for? Maybe it's because you have a roof over your head, or maybe it's because you finally have a car with 4 wheels and runs.
Yeah, or 2 wheels.
So my daughter just had to get a new car. But the point is that, what are we grateful for? Are we grateful for the gifts we have, or do we stay in this lack of feeling? Because with God, you're going to get all your needs met. It's your ego telling you that you still need more, or it didn't go your way, or you need to have everything come out the way you plan it, or needing to control issue, which we mentioned earlier in the program. So if you're coming from a lack of, that's not reality, because God provides everything we need. My parents were raised in the Great Depression, and all I heard was how bad it was. But you know what? They lived through it and lived to have an old age, and they were still around and had a long life, and the Great Depression was long gone. So you don't have to live in the past. It's not a big problem. It's just a challenge at the time, and you do what you need to do and move on.
Well, I just don't let things worry me. When I found out my problem, you know what? I could have very easy felt sorry for myself. You know what? I first thing I did is I told my wife, last thing I want you to do is feel sorry for me. You just treat me like I normally am. And if I complain about I'm hurting that day, don't worry about it. How can I say it? It doesn't bother me. I come to ease. I feel comfortable. And it hasn't stopped me from doing what I do. I mean, I ride a lot of miles on a motorcycle a year, and I stay focused on stuff. And that's what I think is important. And well,
I think that's really honorable that you do that.
Well, I could have been like a lot of people. The first thing they find out, they got an illness, right? And they get withdrawn and they feel sorry for themselves, and then they die. I mean, I watched my grandfather die. I had my grandmother was in the hospital, and she lost her will to live. The doctors came and told my father and me, we don't even know why she died. There was really nothing. It should have killed her, but it was she lost her will to want to live and to fight. So I don't know.
That's what Alzheimer's is all about too. The doctors do not look at the root cause of the problem, so you can superficially do all these wonderful things, but until you're just looking at the symptoms, and that's what's wrong with medicine. They look at the symptoms and they want to fix it. But if you look at where it comes from and heal the root cause of what's the origin of this, and then you heal the root cause of when it started, you don't have to keep recreating the medical problem, and there's no symptoms to medicate anymore. That's why they don't want to give up medications, because they won't have a market for it.
I will say this. I think a lot of people that have suffer mental issues, I'm talking older people, and you use the magic word, and I don't even want to mention that because I had a relative with that disease. And
okay, I hear you.
But you know what? I had a relative back in the 30s and 40s. It got really rich, making big roasting pans for people to, cook their pot roasts and stuff in. And it was cast aluminum.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, you picture eating meat cooked in, cast aluminum, what do you call it? Thing that you put in the oven and you roast your food in it, your chicken or beef and that stuff. The toxins from that aluminum is going to leach into your food. And you figure 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, eating that type, your meals cooked with that type of utensils or aluminum frying pans and everything else that used to be aluminum. I think that's why you see a lot of people with that disease. I think they've already said that aluminum actually has one of the things they feel it causes it.
Well, that's a part of it. But there's also some root causes emotionally, and most people don't want to deal with their feelings. Most people don't want to look at what scares them because then they feel then they're going to have to go through the pain or the trauma. They don't want to look at the abuse they went through, so they just get sick and die. Death is just a transition. Spirit never dies. So when people leave, it's usually because they choose to not face reality. And the symptoms are different for different people. The diseases are different because of the personality of what that person had to go through growing up and in their lives they had to deal with. And if they didn't deal with it, they didn't face reality, then they're going to die. So as you face more reality, as you add more love to your life, as you're meditating every day or doing things that are healthy food-wise, like not eating GMOs, and as you're taking care of your life, as you're explaining that you're doing a lot of good things for yourself, as you do that, I figure I'm going to live to be over 100. In fact, if you know statistically or read anything from other metaphysical materials, the people in the Bible that lived long lives really did. We are created to live 800, 900 years. Its medical profession has told us we need to die at a certain age, and the insurance company then makes their statistics around that. You don't have to believe you're going to die at a certain age or you have to die from a certain disease. It's a cultural myth that we have been heard over and over till people believe it. I don't believe I'm going to die early. I figure that I'm going to live a long life, and my poor daughter, if she's waiting for my inheritance, she's going to have a long wait. But I don't choose to die until I'm ready to go. And at this point, I'm 78. I've got all kinds of irons in the fire. I'm not ready to leave. I have an active life. I'm living in the now. I don't let the past influence me. Because I went through all those difficulties, I forgave everybody. I no longer hang on to those harms from the past and the people and the situations, and I'm free of it. And that's when we live. We live in the now. We live in the love that is now, and it's our birthright. And when we cling to that and embrace it, we have healthy, fulfilling lives of joy and gratitude, and we're filled with love and sharing it. And it's like heaven on earth, and it's a choice.
Yeah, but I still think there's some genetics involved in that because I used to...
Well, genetics is only a thought process, and if you think that person had it, I need to get it, then you're going to get it. Your body consciousness picks up everything you say.
Well,
and if you're going to... One of my examples is you say, I'm going to get a cold twice a year. Guess what? Your body will give you a cold. Your consciousness is in your cells of your body, and your body believes what you tell it. So why don't you tell it positive things?
Well,
I tell my body, I'm youthing. I don't say I'm getting old. I say I'm youthing. I'm 78, and I've been told I look much younger. I'm healthy. I tell my body I'm healthy. And my last illness is almost gone at this point, and I've never used a pill for it. So what we tell the body consciousness, the cells of our bodies have consciousness, and the medicines stop that consciousness from being in a loving atmosphere, environment, or influence. So we have a choice to say everything positive, or we have a choice to to make ourselves limited. God isn't limited. I don't choose to limit myself.
I don't know. I'm going to go back and touch on this a little bit because I had a friend. He was in his mid-80s. And I think he was like 84 years old. And when I was working in Tacoma, he was a sales rep. He'd come into my business, and he lived up by